Listen to Two Married Lesbians discuss an LGBTQ plus book each month that highlights the queer human condition as they use connection and humor to relate the issues to us as a queer community. She's Anna.
And she's Miranda.
I am. And we're Two Married Lesbians.
We are.
And we're all queer here.
So to start off this get to know you episode.
Ooh, I would love to get to know you, stranger.
I hope you already know me
intimately
by now, but if not, let's talk about why books. So why do a podcast about books?
Ooh, interesting question. Why do you want to do a podcast about books?
Well, I love books.
Do you?
I do. I have made books part of my life for a very long time.
Interesting.
Personal passion. Used to be an English teacher. Now I'm a librarian.
Ooh.
And what do you do?
Well, I'm your wife.
Oh, that's true. But you also have a day job.
I do.
You do have a day job.
Most days I have a day job.
And so just, I came out in college, and so I hadn't been exposed to a lot of queer books, and have read them a lot as an adult, and a lot of LGBTQ plus books continue to be published and become popular. Yes, and become popular because we have issues, and we just like the rest of us, we have issues.
I'm gonna say we have issues,
but those issues need to be explored and explained.
They do,
and so they're
very interesting. They're very complex.
Very complex. So I think that's why I wanted to focus it on that, because you can't relate to every book you've read. At least I know I can't.
No, yeah.
But on some level, I can relate to a queer book
because human experience, queer human experience,
absolutely.
Yes.
So I think that's why.
Yeah.
What was the first queer book you read, and when?
Well, that's a more difficult question, Anna, because I did not come out till a lot later in life. You figured your stuff out way faster than I did.
Fair.
I didn't come out until my mid-30s, after being married to a man for 10 years, because none of us get it right 100% of the time, okay? Out of marriages, I'm 50% right, okay? So that's not bad. That's like better than most weathermen, right?
That's pretty good, yeah.
I'm happy with it. I'm pleased, okay? It's a pass-fail situation.
And you got a great son on it.
I did, and our boy's pretty great, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great kid.
But as far as queer books go, I really didn't have any queer book experience that I remember before I came out.
Oh, wow.
Like when I think back, I'm sure
not a book club or anything.
No, there wasn't a queer book club.
No,
that
I didn't mean
crashing.
No,
I'm like, hey y'all, I'm straight. They're like, sure you are.
No, I just meant like, was there like a suburban book club that was like, oh, this is the current gay book, we got to read this. Like I've been in those book clubs before.
No,
because it was like it was like the hot topic. We got to read this book, and then it was like, okay,
it was like Shape of Water situation,
something like that.
Yeah. No,
So you don't remember. So what was the first queer book that you read after coming out?
Well, after coming out, I predominantly dove into other types of queer media, like songs, heavily influenced by whoever I was dating at the time. She'd be like, here's my playlist. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd dive into various different like lesbian subreddits and get things there. But they really didn't talk about queer books, which is kind of a bummer because what a wonderful experience. So it wasn't really until I met you that I dove heavily into queer books.
Well, this is new. I'm learning something.
And definitely, I've had a few that were really impactful. I think reading Glennon Doyle's Untamed was hugely impactful for me. Again,
she was married to a man, right?
Yeah, it
encouraged you to read that. Yeah.
Yes, you did. You're very.
Well, and her other books, they're all good. But,
yeah. But I really enjoyed reading her story, and it really connected with me on a lot of levels that I I both had very emotional and heavy moments with that book, but I also had a lot of joy and I felt very seen. Whereas there have been a few other like late blooming lesbian books that I've read that I had a much harder time because the parts that I struggle with still within myself was too heavily centered, and I just was like, I had to take a break from this. It doesn't mean that the story is not good. It was wonderful. I had to take a step back. Because sometimes books just, they hit you really hard. Like right in the feels.
They do. Mm-hmm. All the feelings. I actually say the word. I hate the feels, but yeah. Feels. All the feelings. Feels. Like feels. Name the emotions and let's talk about them.
Okay, let's do it. So
that's why I just like feels, because I feel.
You feel.
Like it takes away from naming the emotion and saying, this is why I'm frustrated. This is why I'm angry. This is why I'm hurting right now.
Well,
be in that sticky moment with me.
Sit in it.
Sit in it with me. Sit in the sticky goo. I'm not sure what we're
why are we sitting in sticky goo?
Because that's what bad feelings feel like.
Wash your pants, woman.
I'm just saying, like, sit in that moment with me, and then we'll get through.
We'll wash our pants later.
Yeah,
got it.
So my first queer book experience was actually in college, and I went. So I grew up in Crowley, Texas, which is a very conservative town.
Really?
Yeah. So and there was a lesbian couple at my high school.
Oh, this is news to me.
And
tell me more.
Well, just from what I remember, like they just wore like plain clothing, and I mean it was the early aughts, and one always wore a ponytail and one always wore her hair down.
Okay.
And they walked around holding hands, and they got a lot of mean looks from the teachers, and everybody kind of made fun of them. And I don't think they went to any of the dances, which is really sad because, I know, like it's not a happy story.
I danced with so many women at dances.
Well, yeah, in the friend circle, yeah. But I just remember
friend circle.
Like
so close.
Shut up. I just remember seeing how they were treated and being like, like I wanted what they had because you could just see their faces light up around each other.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be like that level of different. And so I just kind of like pushed it down inside myself for a long time and took it really hard and was a very angry teenager, like more than just the regular teen angst. But I think about that a lot. And I just hope that they made it out and are doing okay, and hopefully they're still together. Too. I don't know, like
I hope wherever they are, they're so happy.
They're so happy.
So I got a question. I got a follow up.
Okay, because then it leads into college.
Did you have a crush on one of them?
No, I think
you just loved what they had.
I just loved what they had because they would just ignore all the idiots, and I'm sure they responded or retorted at some point, but you could just tell that they were just happy together.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It was really sweet. So, yeah, but I think they were like a year or two ahead of me, and but I just have that image of them like by the lockers, just like holding hands and talking, and these people walking by and saying hateful things and stuff that you still hear today because teachers don't respond. So anyway, so that part of my story is that I just kind of pushed it down, and I was gonna have this rebirth in college, and I had a different type of rebirth.
Did you?
I did. I ended up coming out my senior year.
Yeah.
And but my junior year, so I went to Texas Christian University.
Okay.
Which,
TCU. Horned Frogs.
Go Frogs. And there was an LGBT authors and themes elective English class.
Oh, interesting.
And I hope they still have that class today. I mean, it was just like, what the heck is this? And so that's really my first exposure. I mean, we looked at some of, and we talked vaguely about it in high school, like Shakespeare sonnets were written to a man.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Hot take. That was never told to me in high school.
I had a really great English teacher, and she even would make, like, don't like a kind comment, but I remember her explicitly saying one day, like it was believed that Shakespeare was gay, and I was like, oh my god, we're talking about this. And kids were hooing and hawing, and she was like, well, a lot of gay people happen to be really creative. And I had always
she's
mic drop, and
did she just like walk out of the room?
No,
explosion behind her.
But that was the first time. So I think that was my senior year of high school, junior or senior year, because those are the years I had her. And I just thought for like the first time, like that was the only thing positive I ever heard said about gay people in school.
That's
a lot.
That's 100% more than what I heard in school. I heard this much.
Oh, silence.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay, no, I just thought you were thinking for a moment, but then I was like, well, her mouth is frozen.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
My internet's dropping out of my Zoom call.
Okay. My in-person Zoom call. So when I got to college, like I said, I pushed it down, and then I went to this class, and I was so nervous about it. And I just, like, had this built up in my mind, like, what is this going to be? And maybe this will help me, because, that those feelings never really go away. And you can't really just not be gay.
Turns out you can't just, like, shove that gay down.
Turns out you just can't not be gay,
No.
So,
turns out.
Because I'd had interest from girls on campus, and I didn't really, I just kind of ran away from it and just whatever.
I just picture a girl going, hey, did you want to get coffee? And you just throw your books down and run.
No, those books are expensive. I didn't carry them with me.
You and ran.
But also interest from boys. And so then I just was like, I'm going to be super focused and not worry about any of this boy nonsense and definitely not girl nonsense. And so I was that person that was like, I'm not really looking for a relationship. And I was always that person. Like that friend who was never dating anyone.
Oh, just not
like
dating.
the older aunt who's got a roommate. Like that was my future.
Yes.
So I was down for that.
Yes. But you hadn't gotten dogs yet.
Hadn't got dogs yet. So so I walk into this class and I'm like, what's going on? And and again, I was still in that mindset of like, can I read people? Because I had decent gaydar.
Did you?
I did. Yes.
Just not internally.
And so we read books like Sarah Waters, Fingersmith, and that was a pretty monumental moment for me.
You became a fingersmith.
Oh my gosh, you're so bad. No, Fingersmith is like a thief.
I know.
It was historical fiction, and Sarah Waters is to this day.
The title's phenomenal.
Double entendre, but it's just reading a book about, and again, it was a period piece for lesbians. Which
can we get something besides a period piece?
But Sarah Waters was doing it before it was overdone.
I know.
So I just want to be clear on that.
She's OG.
She's OG. So just reading books with queer characters was like monumental, and we read Alison Bechdel's Funhouse, and that was exploded. A queer comic. It did explode, and I loved that class, and I think the teacher, was a conservative campus still back then, but I think our professor kind of came out to us during that class.
Really?
Yeah, and
I feel like we should have seen that coming.
Yeah, and you could tell that some people in there were gay, and they talked about their experience. And I rarely said anything unless I was saying that something was great or the character was great. I put it all on like the English side.
Yeah.
Not the like LGBT
I'm really
side.
Focused.
I'm really focused on the characterization that we see in this character, and
everybody's like, rolling their eyes.
You are. So that was my first experience with that, and just having it taught in like a historical sense. And we watched documentaries, and we put everything in this like historical context.
Yes.
Of where, the authors and the themes have come out, and what they wrote about, and how people did that at a different time. And so there were older texts as well. I don't remember the full list, but those two really stand out to me. And just like the queer theory came out, and that is something that's discussed a lot in high school classes, which I did in my high school class when I was in high school, about the Great Gatsby, the queer theory. Nick is in love with Gatsby, and then that kind of like the comments that are made, and obviously Gatsby was like, no, all about Daisy, but he's all about that.
All about Daisy. I'm all about it.
All about that.
I'm just about that D. Easy.
Oh, you did. You went there. that green line at the end of your dock. Of course you can repeat the past. So I just, that was really, I think back to that, we did talk about queer theory with that, and then Shakespeare, and that was it in high school. But we took it a step further. We read a different one of Fitzgerald novels in that class. And that was, you know, monumental for me. And then I went off and had a senior year and had some friendships friends who I opened up to, and yeah, that's a whole thing.
Wow. I learned a lot. I didn't know some of these things about you, so that's pretty awesome.
I thought I told you about the LGBT authors and themes.
You mentioned it, but you never went that deep in it.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah. So. I wonder if I still have that.
The textbook?
The syllabus. No, there was all a bunch of novels.
Oh, it was a whole bunch of different novels.
Yeah, and then a couple like medical things. Like we read about gender reassignment surgery, which a couple of the hetero guys really freaked out about that because of what happens to their genitalia. But I learned a lot in that sense of like when we talked about authentic books.
There were hetero dudes
yeah.
in your LGBT... Wait, you just said it was LGBT studies?
No,
they didn't add a Q.
LGBT, yeah. Well, you got to shorten it so
it fits in the box.
The box.
Okay.
Authors and themes, but yeah. So we read some medical stuff when we talked about transitioning and stuff like that. Which obviously that's not a condition of being trans, but
right.
Which she made clear. But she was like,
"Hey, that's awesome that she did."
Yeah, and she's like, "I've only taught this a few times, but I've gotten questions that this is a medical thing," and then all of them were like, "Well, what?" So.
Well, that's really interesting.
So I learned a lot.
Yeah. Man, I wish I could have had that experience. That sounds awesome. Like, what a great way to kind of explore who you are. My college experience didn't follow that path, but that's okay. We all have different paths.
So that was my first queer book that I really remember was Fingersmith.
Awesome. Okay, so I really feel strongly that we should do queer books.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm torn, but okay.
Torn. Okay. Do you feel like we needed to be a little more fair and balanced and have straight books?
Well, they're probably gonna have straight characters. Don't all books have straight characters?
Yeah, they do. You gotta fill out the background characters or something.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of them will probably end up being YA because they're just so fun.
And there's so many. And I think a lot of queer people today read YA books as a way to relive being young.
Yeah.
And especially because
let me have the childhood I didn't get.
Yeah. And YA books are so timeless. I used to be in like adult book clubs where we only read YA because they were timeless in the sense that everybody remembers their first love. Mm-hmm. Everybody whether it happened in high school or not. Mm-hmm. Everybody remembers the pressure of being like perfect and having to like submit to your parents' will while trying to like not do what they want. You know, all those things that come...
Fight the power, but also be home before dark.
Yeah, like all that stuff just coming up. Like we remember that time in our life because it is so pivotal and monumental.
Yeah, and feelings are very strong and just everything's like potentially world ending at that age.
Absolutely. And sometimes it is at that point.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
So I think YA falls into like its own gotta read category.
Yeah.
So I think we'll try to pick books that have a lot of intersectionality.
Absolutely. Like. I'm a big fan of kind of bringing in not only different identities, whether they be, your sexuality, your gender identity, but also like making sure that, hey, are we finding books that are balanced and representing, racially diverse characters? Maybe I know I have a couple books that I want to put on the list that had, different faiths represented and different experiences, just diversity and intersectionality from kind of all those different directions, right? To really see a much broader and more kind of filled out version of queerdom, right? Because
it looks different.
It does look different. All we can see here in our living room
is our lived experience.
As two white cisgendered lesbians. And even though that just described both of us, we've both had very different lived experiences.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I love about books is you can just go, hey, you know what? I'm going to jump into a trans black character's experience and understand what that looks like. And I love that because I can better understand someone. So I can have more empathy for what that looks like, what they went through. And I can also see the commonalities of feeling different and how I feel and all of that. Oh, gosh, books are great.
They're pretty powerful.
They are. Now, that being said, I do think graphic novels are also an awesome addition. And even maybe some nonfiction, some memoirs.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think? What do you think we should start with? I'm always open to recommendations because I know a librarian and she's very good at recommending incredible books.
Based on your interests.
Based on my interests.
That's how we get trained on,
They're like, hey, you might have a lesbian that needs queer media.
No, but you learn
what are you going to give her?
How to talk to someone about what they like to read and what they're looking for, and then you try to find a book that matches their interests.
Okay, so if I come to you and I say, hey.
Oh boy, on the spot. Okay.
Hey, my wife and I, we're both lesbians, and we like to read queer books.
Okay.
Go.
Well, are you looking for YA, or are you looking for an adult book, fiction, nonfiction?
All of the above, but I think I want to start with something fun and fluffy. Something easy to read, delightful. You got anything for me, librarian?
Do you like science fiction? What genre are we talking about? Do you just want queer characters,
or do you want some
their queerness to be the heart of the story?
I want it to be the heart. Okay. For now, I want that. So, give me something cute. Give me something queer. I'd like a graphic novel if you have it.
Oh, well, we have a very popular series that I'm thinking of.
Do you? Yes. Pray tell.
It is called Heartstopper.
What? Never heard of it.
There are 4 volumes.
4? That sounds extensive.
It's not. They're quick reads.
Oh, okay.
And, start with the first 2 and see what you think.
I'd love it. You know what I think my wife and I'll do? I think we'll have episode 1 of the podcast be about that.
Absolutely. Sounds delightful.
Okay, it's a date.
Well, I'm taken, so.
Oh, wait, it's falling apart. I thought you were my wife, but also the librarian.
Yeah, there you go.
Gay panic.
So Heartstopper is about 2 high schoolers at a British all-boys school.
Mm-hmm. And they're boys at this all-boys school.
Yes, and one is already out, Charlie, so he's kind of like known as the gay kid at school, and then he develops a friendship with Nick.
Oh.
And Nick we kind of assume is straight through most of it, but starts having feelings for Charlie.
It looks cute.
It is a love story, so spoiler on that, but who doesn't love a good queer love story?
Who doesn't?
And it's going to be a Netflix series, so.
Indeed it is. Yeah. I'm excited to see how that goes. But
live action too. So
live action. Yes.
Yeah, but that's going to be our first read, I think, because it's just, again, like, graphic novels are so popular now, and
they're fun.
They're fun.
They're relatable,
and you really have to read closely to interpret that image sometimes and what characters are feeling.
You also get so much more out of the art too. That kind of gives you a lot of context.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm surprised by how much story there is when it feels like so much of it is art.
Yes.
But I feel like people do a lot of great things with combining like a art of how someone's texting, and they show the text screen and it's got a lot of text on it. And,
yes.
And our author, Alice Oseman, is the writer.
They're fam.
They're the writer and the illustrator. So I love when that comes about, because I feel like you get like their full vision instead of them having to work with an illustrator. So.
Well, that sounds great. It is a date. So see you then.
See you then.
All right.
And until then, we're all queer here.